Beautiful.
David's running, I know we're talking specifically today, dealing with future funding options for the general fund. Angie was, when she brought her book, I'm not sure what other members of council brought their book, but I did, I forgot to get it. So she's going to, David's going to go and make a copy of the general fund projections, so as we have them during these discussions. So while he's going there real quick, Tim, I know you have some background you want to talk about as we get into the discussions on how to cover deficits then.
I would. Thank you, Greg, and thank you, council members. I did pass out a memo entitled Safety Forces Funding. And I thought that we talked quite a great deal about the possibility of either a safety levy or safety wage tax. And I thought it would be good to take a step back and just state the issue. Why are we even considering this? And so I put together an outline, a brief outline, defining the issue, the sources of our funds and uses of our funds, and hopefully that will generate discussion on which direction to go in 2015. While crime is declining in the city, we've seen that in reports that the chief has provided to us during our safety committee meetings, health and safety committee meetings, and I believe there's been improvement in 2014. We certainly need to continue to reduce crime and change the perception that exists of our city. I think we have broad agreement that there is a need for more police officers, that our police department is understaffed to achieve the results the community is asking of it. Police and fire department safety vehicles are, as we all know, of an extreme age. We've done probably a little better job with the police department recently in changing out some of our older vehicles. But we still have some aged and poor condition vehicles, certainly in both departments. Our facilities have deteriorated over a number of years, and in my opinion, training of the staff is not at the level that's needed. In addition, funding of city safety forces, as we all know, takes just under 60% of the entire general fund. I mean, that is a significant share of our general fund, and it's a level, as we've seen with the projections provided by the finance department, it's not sustainable. We're given the budget that was passed, we're anticipating going into the red. I think we were looking at that in 2016 for a while. We certainly have seen some good news in the income tax collections and general belt tightening, but still, that bellwether fund for any city, it's general fund, it's got to go. If we do nothing, our projections show that it'll go into the red in less than 2 years, 2017. Therefore, in order to improve, expand, and modernize our safety forces, reduce crime, stabilize our general fund, the city should consider, in my opinion, a safety levy or a safety wage tax. And I know Dave is, and I appreciate him handing out the budget, general fund. What I did is try to pull out portions of that, and certainly the most compelling portion is our deficit spending situation. Expenditures are greater than revenues, and as noted in 2015 through 2018, those are roughly where our projections say that we are. 2015, about 508, almost 509,000. 2016 jumps up to 609,000. 2017, it's 612, and so forth. We've talked about a number of different sources of funds. So we've talked about the RETA credit rollback. Obviously, if council does go forward with that rollback to the 50% level that's been proposed, it's going to be a while until those collections related to that action start to hit our general fund. Conservatively, I would think if we took the action, the legislation that's before you this evening and for readings thereafter, I can only see about 65,000 as a reasonable projection as to what we would realize this year. Obviously, that grows over time, so about 200,000 to 2017, 2018. We talked about the wage tax, and I think our original premise was maybe we ought to look at a 0.25% wage tax increase. Our current income tax is at 2%. That would get us to a level of about 2.25%. In our discussions, and I understand that the RETA credit rollback is not without impact. It certainly will have impact and a little bit more disproportionate on some residents depending on where they work than others. The safety wage tax, if we were to consider half of what we've been discussing, which is would be 0.125, then I think those numbers are fairly clear, and I think they're fairly significant. We looked at the 0.25, we were about 1.3 million, I believe, but we carved that in half, we're about half that amount. So if you add those up, the line under safety wage tax, you begin to address that deficit spending situation with some additional funds available. And I think that's very good news. That's very positive. For a minimal, relatively minimal, and I hate to say that with any tax increase, it raises people's costs. So I understand that, but 0.125 is relatively a lower wage increase than what we were considering, and I think certainly has less impact, again, in my opinion, than a property tax. Property tax has some impacts on it with people on fixed income and other things that I just have some concerns about. Another thing I mentioned under sources of funds is considering the renewal of the 5 mil levy to the current rates. As everyone knows, our levy, or 5 mil levy, is at 1976 rates. That 1976 was a long time ago. So I still remember it, but it was a while ago. And I suppose that a reconsideration of where those rates should be, maybe this is the time to do that. The back page.
Tim, before you go to the back page,
I'm happy to stop at any moment.
Ask Dave to, I know it's been a few days since we've been back from the holidays, but with December, this today was our first real snowfall. Our crews had to be out, and the impact of the lower gas prices. You showed us 1.7 as it carried over from 14 into 15. Where do you see that? Do you see that being any higher based off of what you?
We have not, because we have not officially closed the year yet. But that gap it's looking to me like it's going to be a lot smaller.
Then it's going to be actually less than 170. Carry over.
Which it looks like we should carry a little bit more over.
That's what I was saying.
Couple things. Income taxes still came in a little higher than what was budgeted. That's a positive note. Healthcare claims are a little bit below. That's usually the two big items that you never know for sure where we're going to be at. But it's looking like that gap where you see the negative 230,000. It's starting to close up a little bit. Now, because with your budget too, if you're looking at your forecast, there's always a little bit of, as long as you stay under budget, there's always a little bit of savings at the end. That money that's left on the table. So hopefully we carry close to like 1.9 million into next year.
I think income tax receipts being up.
Yeah.
Combined with some, I think we did some significant belt tightening.
We did,
this year.
yes.
Those are probably the two most, and as anyone would reasonably expect, those are two areas. If you have revenues increasing and you cut costs, that helps. So, but I do, and I know that our finance department interjects a good deal of conservatism into the numbers. That's a good thing.
What do we do?
Feel like we have money that we don't. And so I think right now we're going with these numbers, but we've got to wait and see. But the end of year close out.
Good, same thing.
Absolutely. Just to kind of wrap up this memo, obviously, I think if we are going to do a safety levy or wage tax, we have a decision to make, May or November of this year, or no, we're not to do it at all. So that the numbers above that I provided are based on doing it in November. Obviously, we have a pretty tight time frame to do it in May. It's certainly doable, but there may be some benefits to putting that decision, or not putting the decision off, but putting the action off until November. And I do think we, and Gary, you may want to weigh in on this, but we've talked about our levies, renewing them in either November of 2015 or May of 2016. I guess there were two questions that I might ask you to comment on, Gary. One was, when do we have to do it? And I guess the other question is, when should we do it? Maybe you can do
Well,
it.
the 3/10 and 7/10 is up in May 2016.
That's correct.
And I called over to the Board of Elections, and you could always, it appears, I don't know definitively, but you could push it up, instead of May, November of 15. But once again, on the ballot, it would say beginning, May of 16. So, a lot of, talking to the Board of Election people, we could confuse our voters about that, but I don't have a definitive, there's nothing in the law that says that we can't do it. But if we're looking on the wage tax to, put that 125 on, that would go on in November of 15, so you'd have three issues if you want to bring the other one up. And so that, in putting anything on in February would be rushed because of the fact that you'd have to pass it as an emergency ordinance. And I think this is the type of ordinance that you guys would want 3 readings on. So you're not going to be able to get anything on the ballot for May.
You said we would have 3. Does the credit have to go on the ballot?
No.
Is that what you meant?
No.
What's the third one then?
Well, I meant the 3/10 and the 7/10.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're both May of 2016. The reader rollback is your vote.
I'm sorry.
You implement that.
I think, thank you, Gary. I think that we always, with any type of tax levy, I guess the voters, and they deserve to know what value they're going to be getting from this type of action. things that are listed here under uses of funds, I think that we can incorporate into this levy. We certainly want to, as I said before, improve, expand, and modernize the forces. But the discussion we've had is that crime is too high. I think that a direct improvement is to add police officers. I think that is something that we would be able to have a direct impact on that. We have the opportunity to add 2 to 3 additional officers with this type of structure. We want to utilize the COPS grant, that application is by May or June of this year, and we would learn what if we were awarded or not somewhere in the 3rd or 4th quarter of 2015. Certainly that would lead to increased police presence, patrols in the community, increased response times. We do want to institute a safety forces training program. Particularly the police department has been very clear to me that we need to do more training. We need to avail ourselves more to those. But those have been the victim of cost cutting in the past. Training is something we don't want to cut back on if we can take advantage of that. Security cameras, increasing that investment, replacing our aged safety vehicles, as I mentioned. The one fire truck is over 25 years old. If we are fortunate, and I guess a safety truck or a fire truck, it costs even more than a street sweeper, but it's $365,000. If we can get a grant, we may be able to lower our cost to $17,000. So I like those kind of grants. And, if we can pursue that, I think that is certainly a selling point. And match that, or that $17,000 could come from this levy. Certainly replacing all our remaining Crown Victorias in the police fleet. Implementation of PD court fire facilities feasibility study. That's a 2-month study, so, and I signed that contract today. So I'm hopeful that we will be able to have that certainly done by March. We should know, at least from our firm that we selected, what they think we ought to do. And last but not least, stabilize our general fund. So these are some of the thoughts that I had regarding the safety forces funding. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I'm sure Dave could provide any numbers that are necessary.
Yeah, my question would be, if we choose, I don't think any of us in this room want to do a tax increase, and we all know that, but I think it's necessary. Do we have to do 2 out of the 3? I mean, can't we just pick the best one, go with it in November when it gives us our best chance to get it out there? What are we going to yield the most from as far as which one of these? I don't think that we should do the rollback unless it's an absolute, unless the other 2 fail, one of the other 2 fail. I don't think that we're going to get anywhere with our citizens if we try to go after all 3 tax increases. I think we need to pick whichever one is going to yield us the most, and then look at it and say which one do we have the best chance of obtaining. But to go with all 3, again, I would put the rollback on the back burner and pick one of the other 2 and see where that might take us. And then if I would say that, Mr. Mullen, what would your recommendation be? Which one would we go with?
Well, and those are great points, Councilman Davis. And that's really what I wanted to isolate that our deficit spending. What's the nut we need to crack in order to not have that every year? And as you can see with the expenditures and revenues, we range from about 508,000 up to 612,000. If you one way to get there is doing the reader rollback and the safety wage tax, but at a reduced, in pulling that wage tax back. Okay, before we were at 0.25, you cut that in half, you do cover it. And that's what those numbers show. Without one or the other alone, neither one would cover it.
If we left it at the 0.25, it would cover.
Yes, yes it would.
Yeah,
Yes, it
think,
would.
and it's perception.
Yeah.
You raise my taxes twice. So and if you're going to get the same result, maybe a better result if you do it.
I think you would get a higher revenue stream. Yes, you would.
Can I ask, Dave, do we know, like on this rollback, do we know the percentage of our population that this will affect?
I think we do, I don't have that with me at the moment.
Estimated.
Because I would have to think that would be a low percentage.
I think it's 25%. I
Yeah.
thought I saw something where we got 3,000 residents that work in the city, and we got 1,000 some residents that work outside the city. So if that's right, if I'm remembering that right, then you're looking like about 25% of the population.
It's pretty big.
Sticking on Gary's point, but I wanted to go back. You talked about the 5 mil to its current rates, not 1976 rates. Have you done any projections on what that would be? Because that might help to explain. Okay,
We do have that. It was estimated to generate an additional $530,000 roughly.
okay. That is due in 2017. I believe.
It's not an option until 2017.
17.
And you wouldn't see the impact until 2018.
That's when, I guess, based off of the new projections, that we would start to see a negative in our general fund would really be in 2018. If we're going to see some good carryover this year, we just projected forward. 2017 was only 21,000 really negative, so we would definitely spend until then, stay positive until 2018. The other thing, Ken, just like our thoughts, is remember, general election in November, we had a turnout.
Right.
And then, of course, in May, non-election year, it's probably not going to be, well, you probably have the presidential.
Well, 16.
This general, it shouldn't be that heavy because you're not going to have the presidential on there, right? And I don't think there's going to be any state office.
This is a low election.
This is a
Well,
election.
I'm just thinking of the council offices that will be up for election, that's all. I guess locally, that would be on local, Sean.
I want to make a few statements. I got an open mind. I think if we put this on the ballot, and make sure we spell everything out, what they have, what they're going to get, not like the last time where it was general statement. We have to reduce crime. I think part of the problem is we have no jail. I think we have to address that problem. If you look at the rap sheet, that's the sheet every day when they come out. The same ones are in and out of jail. We spend probably half our time, half our money chasing those same undesirables. This town has 18,000 people. Next year, approximately 17,500 people. 2,000 of those are college students. Probably the rest are retired. And like Gary said, 25% pay taxes. These people out here, they're the ones that are going to be carrying the burden. Plus the retirees, like myself, I don't pay a dime, nor do I complain. I just think, I know the housing project is going to condense, and we're working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, to remove some of these undesirables in this town and send them back where they came from, or put them in jail. And I think for this year, 2015, we should look at number one priority, are we going to move the police department over to the Justice Center, and number 2016, get with the county, because they're also having a problem with crime, and get the jail back in operation. I don't want to hear any more excuses, it costs too much. If somebody gets killed, that's too much, in my estimation. So I have an open mind, and I know there's pros and there's cons, and there's taxes coming. We have the JV Green Team to look forward to. That's another increase that I'm not too happy with. And I think this town can only take so much of taxes because nobody's working. Thank you.
I think going to, what you talked about the police station, we'll know probably something, as Timmy said, by March, end of March on the piece.
By the end of the
Yeah.
first quarter.
So if we
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
the
One
levy,
way or another.
whether we look at a levy or an income tax increase on November, we'll have that data to be able to do the game plan with
Right.
those
Seems
things.
to align a little bit better with November.
Right.
I think it does.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I've got a couple comments on the tax rollback credit, just to give everybody some information. I went on the RETA website, and there's like 226 cities in the state of Ohio that belong to RETA. Not everybody belongs to it. There's 129 or 57% of the cities offer at least 100%, offer the 100% credit. So the majority of RETA cities offer the 100%. And of the 226, only 17 cities have a higher tax rate than 2%. So I agree with Kenny that I don't think we should be eliminating this credit or reducing this credit now, and then we're still not done. We should have a comprehensive approach. And I also think the comprehensive approach should include certain expenses. We have to look and be honest with ourselves. It's nice to have a health department. It's nice to have a 40-man fire department, but can we afford that? If we're going to go to the public and raise taxes, or ask them to raise taxes, I think we really got to look and say, can we really afford a 40-man fire department? Can we really afford a health department? Those are sizable expenditures that could reduce some of the need. I mean, maybe there's a mixture we can come up with, reduction of expenses and some type of increase. But just to go with an increase and say we're going to stay at status quo even though the city continues to shrink, I'm not sure that's the right approach. But those are just some of my thoughts.
Mayor, I know this study that the health department's doing in conjunction with the county will be completed, but am I right in saying that won't be until the quarter of this year?
It's going to take every bit of 2015, yes.
But that,
Don't forget, we just put the application in,
yeah.
the innovative application.
So, unfortunately, we won't have that data as we look at what we're doing. Thoughts are, I think the consensus of the committee is basically one or the other. I think what we did to roll back, we moved it to three readings, so we could have these discussions and spend time over the holidays thinking about what we wanted to do. And we came up with this quarter of a point, 0.125 versus a quarter of a point, I should say, on the safety tax. But if we went back and took the rate off and did the quarter of a point, maybe that would do what Kenny mentioned, one shot, covers everything, puts money in coffers.
With that being said, Mike's issue with the health department, it would be, that would be something that would enhance that later, because I really feel that that's the big one. And I think that the county obviously is feeling that also. That's why we're doing that study. So I think that behind whatever we may do, that could be more added to it. But we can't do anything with that until the study's done, correct? Or we shouldn't do anything.
Guys, you want to eliminate not doing the read a rollback and try for a safety wage tax out of the committee? Present to council, or not? What do you
I can't hear one word over here that's being said.
I
One
think
word.
my
At
batteries
least this ain't working.
our batteries aren't working.
He asked what council, what the committee thinks. And
I got a red button.
I'm for eliminating, I'm not proposing the credit, but I can only support a tax increase if it's combined with expense reductions. I mean, I can't really support the tax increase by itself. So if that's what we're going to do, I'm not for that.
The reduction, part of the reduction. Frankly, we need to get the batteries. This is okay, but part of the reduction, the health department, we really, that probably won't be part and parcel of what we could do until 2016 when that study's done. But the other part is, what you're saying is trying to condense departments. In the sense of, do we need, what kind of employees can.
Right, well, I've been consistent in the past year saying, the health department cost us, the general fund, about $250,000. And we can't afford that expense. And our fire department is way bigger than what it should be for a city our size. Each fireman probably costs the general fund $75,000 to $90,000. So if you got down to, Niles is 31, Alliance is 30, Maple Heights is 28, Chillicothe is 28. If you get down to that, we got 34 if you don't count the SAFER grant people. If you got down to 28 through retirement and attrition, you're looking at $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. If you got the health department and combined with the county, like almost everybody else in the state of Ohio has done, you're looking at saving a couple $100,000.
I think the health department issue would really help. I think, and you're right, I think that's the biggest thing that will help our budget. And maybe there will be some synergies that come out of the study that we could work with the county and help see.
And there's also the possibility of they don't get the grant, there will be no study. And then this council's going to have to make the call.
Then we would have to make that decision, but my point is that we've got to make a move, and it's got to come out of this committee. And we all here, you, Mike, and I agree, and everybody here agrees. One thing that if we're going to ask for a safety levy, the health department, we are not going to lose any services to the citizens if they go combined with the Jefferson County Health Department. We shouldn't lose any, I can't guarantee that, but we shouldn't lose any significant services to our citizens. So that's, in my opinion, that's why I lean closer to that. The fire department, I hear you. We keep talking about that, and I hate to give back free money, and with the SAFER grant right now, I think that that's a hard thing to talk about at this point, and that's why I'm kind of abstaining from it, okay? But if we don't move forward and get this till we can vote in November, we're never going to move forward. So I hear you. I understand the cuts that you're asking for, and I think that by Tim doing his research on the deficit spending, that he's well aware of what you're asking for. But I think that if we don't come out of some kind of an idea of what we're going to do, we can't sit on this until these researches are done. We have to make a move forward with this safety levy, because if we don't, we'll never get it passed. It's got, like I think John said, it's got to be done right. It's got to be all out there. But if you're going in for a safety levy, cutting safety forces, I don't see anybody giving you their support on that.
And Kenny will need the support of both safety forces in order to pass
Absolutely.
a levy.
Now, one thing if I could interject, getting back to the adding police officers. We've got the COPS grant application that is due May or June of this year. I suppose we're going to have to, if we were to wait until November, and given the if the wage tax was 0.25, we're going to have to kind of put a structure together that we can support. now for that, and that's what, at least that's what I'm hearing, and I guess I want to share with council is, we need to come back, finance department, administration, and because I think we do want to go for that council payment, I really do, and I know it's not easy, it's not as easy, safer grant's a lot easier. But having said that, I don't know any other way to, and maybe my premise is off base, I don't think it is, that we're understaffed. We need more police officers, and the only way we're going to do that is to go after the council. So, and just kind of thinking out loud, I think we need to, the administration, put a structure together to see what, based on all these different scenarios, and then see how we would be able to support the 2 to 3 officers. I think that would make a big difference, but it kind of unfortunately goes the opposite of what I know you're alluding to, Mike. Cutting costs. It's more we're adding something, and we're going to have to try to figure out a way to make that work, and maybe tighten the belt even further.
We're adding something that is in desperate need that this city has been asking for, safety through more police. And just to reiterate, I believe that the legislation for the re-roll back will be just permanently tabled at this point in time until we decide if we ever want to bring it back. We'll just table that. It's not on that. I think we second reading, so we'll just end up tabling that.
You need to do that in the
Yes,
regular
I know that.
meeting when the ordinance comes up to make a motion to table.
Any further questions or discussions on?
I guess my question, I think coming out of committee, we are going to suggest
My suggestion is to go back to the
0.25.
0.25 on the wage tax.
That's it.
But with the parameters on the second page, we have to have clear and concise use of what this is for, as well as Mike, you're correct in saying we need to also be very cost efficient in our city operations. But, if we put this levy on, then we got to have the support of both police and fire, and we have to have in there what the citizens are going to benefit from, period.
Value.
The value for it. Something we've asked the green team, and you brought that up earlier.
That's another sore point.
If you put that on and they pass, all right, you got the safer grant going to expire next year, middle of
July 10th, 2016.
Right. And when we got the safer grant, we said,
60 or 16?
16.
we said those, once that safer grant expired, those 6 are going to get laid off. If you pass the safer grant, if you pass the, are you going to guarantee those 6 stay? Or they're still going to go?
I thought the safer grant.
I think it's
You know what?
Brought it back at
Like,
33 months.
if I may, that's part of our negotiations coming up, and I think it'd be a good topic for executive session to talk about that.
Okay, but at some point, the public's got to know.
Right, exactly.
And I'll refresh something on that note. One of the things when and this really isn't getting into the negotiation, I'm not trying to do that, I apologize. But just because you asked that question, I believe what we talked about was that was one of the reasons why the safer grant was so important, because we have so many guys in the department chief that are retiring in the next couple of years, and we were getting kind of free training because these guys were going to. So I think the department's ready for part of that, without speaking for them, what you're asking for, but at this point, can't wait for negotiations to find out. But I think that's exactly what this council talked about. If I remember correctly, was getting that training. That's what the safer grant was so important, and kind of left it at that, because that wasn't supposed to be a deterrent or something to use in negotiations at all.
And I think we just had one retirement chief. I think there's another one coming up in spring or summer.
He hasn't retired yet.
Eligible. Okay. Committee spoke, members of council, comments and questions.
What we gonna do now, Chairman? What we gonna do now? What we gonna bring in?
We're going to not do the read roll back, and we'll bring in, we'll have our staff, our finance department, our city manager focus on it, 0.25 wage tax increase for the ballot. That way we'll be given 3 readings, we will be done hopefully, or we'll see the negotiations.
So everything up front, what we're gonna do with the money, what they have, what they want.
So we're going to have negotiations first, we'll determine that. So that will be left up to our negotiators.
Oh, hidden.
Okay, anything that you need to?
Nothing else.
Mayor, any comments? Good chair up there? Nope. All right, then. Next week, we're going to have another finance committee meeting, and I believe, hopefully you'll have everything for the closeout of 2014 plus next
Yeah,
week.
she closes this week, hopefully tomorrow.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, thank you for all your efforts. You're kind of being stressed right now. So for that, we'll do it at 6:30 will be our finance committee meeting next week. I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.